Well, hey there, guys. I'm Max LaBeast, and this is the Curiosity Shop, the ZeldaDungeon.net video mailbag where I answer your Zelda questions. Our first question comes from Etriel. What are your favorite type of dungeons? Fire-themed, water-themed, etc. Which types of dungeons would you like to see used more or less? I've actually talked about this a bit before, actually on numerous occasions, but I think that my favorite kind of dungeons are actually the ones that don't bank on a specific element. They're the ones where they combine a lot of aspects together and make a really unique kind of fantastic area that isn't quite any very specific theme, because I think those both mark the most realistic areas and the most unusual ones, depending on how they choose to do it. And I think this is something Skyward Sword was excellent at, but I think one of my favorite examples of this is the Forest Temple in Ocarina of Time, because it's a forest temple, but it's also like almost like a mansion. It's got spooky themes, and it's got so much going on. It was a very complicated dungeon thematically, and I really like dungeons that do that. I think I like to see Nintendo move away from dungeons where it's just like one idea. That's me personally. Be sure to tell me your guys' favorite or least favorite dungeon ideas in the future. Link asks, do you find it odd that there are like 20 heroes in the Zelda series who all look exactly alike, wear the same clothes, and are named Link? Is this some sort of error on Nintendo's part, or am I just overthinking this? Aside from what my answer to the question, you have the most ironic username ever, by the way, but you're definitely overthinking this, because really, Nintendo, it's not an error, it's Nintendo reusing the character because he works, because he's the hero of the series. They're reusing the same character in multiple games without making him like the same person. He's not like the same person going across, living over thousands of years. They're just reusing the character concept because he works, he's the hero, he's the iconic character of the series. Even Zelda isn't really as iconic as Link is. And, you know, I think it works quite well, especially when you consider the idea of him being a proxy of the player. He works for that, and there's no reason to change him necessarily unless you want to make him customizable, which I still stand by as a pretty good idea. I have no idea how to pronounce this, so bear with me. Manoara Begum asks, is Shadow Link in any way something more? Like, is he some mysterious character with more depth, or was he just what we got and nothing more? Because my friend, who is a huge Zelda fan, likes the character and thinks they should make a game for Shadow Link. I disagree, as I think with many aspects of Zelda, Nintendo really does not think too deeply into them. I agree, and this is definitely one of those aspects. Shadow Link or Dark Link really only appears as a boss, and that's the extent of it. That's it. Period. Done. He's a monster that shows up and you fight him. You know, you could say he's created by magic, or he's like a spell, or he's some kind of doppelganger creature that could turn into anyone, or he's somehow Link's evil brought out, you know, whatever. But the thing is he's not even a consistent character across the timeline. Each time the Shadow Link is created, it's not really the same thing as the previous ones. The only one that had vague plot relation was the one in his original appearance in Adventure of Link, because in that one, it's implied that he's actually, like, the final test before Link gets the Triforce. But that's it! He's no plot relevance aside from that, so I definitely don't think they should make a game off of a single boss. Priest of Nehru asks, in Adventure of Link, the plot element is revealed that every girl born into the royal family will be called Zelda, so why is it in Skyward Sword that the main female character is also called Zelda? Well, Skyward Sword is released later. I think that Adventure of Link was trying to explain that phenomenon, but really Adventure of Link actually takes place way later on the timeline, and only on the cop-out or downfall timeline, where Link's dead, or whatever, after Ocarina of Time, the third timeline split. It's later on that one, and only on that one, that Adventure of Link takes place. So that explanation's really been completely retconned. It might apply for any games taking place afterwards, like that's the running reason why, but that's the extent of it. That's as far as that goes. It's just not relevant anymore, really. David Acuna asks, why is A Link to the Past considered the best Zelda game of all time, according to G4? And if you don't answer this, I hate you! What is it with all the hate lately if I don't answer questions? God. I think A Link to the Past is considered the best because it's the first example of a game that established the modern Zelda formula. I mean, it was 2D, but basically Ocarina of Time played exactly the same, really. I think that A Link to the Past really set in stone the formula that all the current Zelda games use, and it's going to get recognition for that. It's also one of the longest Zelda games with the most content, and arguably one of the most impressive overworlds of the series. The things I like about Skyward Sword's overworld are pretty much the same things that I liked about A Link to the Past. So, I think that it's got a lot of that, like, that forebear thing going on, where it originated a lot of elements. I used to think it was the best too, and I may still think that. I'm not really sure anymore. But I think it's a great game, and I understand why a lot of people hold such a high opinion of it, because it really is a full game with a lot to it, a lot of stuff to do, a lot of great gameplay, and it originated a lot of stuff. Majura's Wrath 2.0 asks, a question that has always bothered me is how do the Gerudo reproduce if only one male is born every century? Actually, there is an explanation for this. A Gossip Stone states that, well, it is said, maybe it's a rumor, that usually people take the Gossip Stones, what they say is true because it's the only explanation for said thing, but basically they go to Hyrule Castle Town to get boyfriends sometimes. So either they kidnap people or just get an actual boyfriend and they reproduce. Yeah, that's the explanation. So they actually are mating, but they just don't have one of their men every century. Who knows how they keep up their actual race instead of just getting diluted into other races. I don't know, it doesn't make any sense, but there you go. Oracle of Sages asks, which of the Oracle games do you prefer, and do you think elements of those games, like rings, animal friends, gacha seeds, etc., could be seen in future games? I actually have not beaten Oracle Seasons, though part of the reason for that is because it's made me unhappy. But of the two, I prefer Oracle's Ages. I think it's a great game, and it's got its own flaws, but I think it's a funner game overall, barring the Goron dancing thing. Though Oracle Seasons has a lesser version of that with the Subrosian dancing, so it's not much better. But I think of the elements that I'd like to see out of them. I mean, they've got a lot of unique elements, but I think of that more like, oh, that's that game's unique thing, not necessarily something the whole series should adopt. But the one thing I really like out of the Oracle games that I'd love to see again, and we actually sort of did see with the medals in Skyward Sword, is the ring system. I love that idea of various accessories, not necessarily even plot necessary, though some of them could be, with all kinds of stat boosts and special abilities, and just make a customizable character with a lot of unique benefits, and, have a collectible like that. I really like that idea, and I'd like to see it again, or expand it on into other item types. The Cheshire Cat asks, do you think that the Deku Scrubs could have anything to do with the Korok? Besides looking similar and living in the same sort of place, they are both created from people who get lost and leave the Kokiri Forest, according to Four Swords Adventures. Well, I don't know about that where you get that. The Koroks, or how do you pronounce that, are not stated to be created that way. Their way of being created is actually very specific. They used to be Kokiri. It's that simple. They were Kokiri who the Deku Tree just decided didn't need to be little kids anymore, so they made them the little tree people. There's no relation to the Deku Scrubs unless you buy the theory that some people say where they somehow fuse the Deku Scrubs to the Kokiri, except the problem with that being that there's no reason to think that at all. Like, literally, there's no reason to nothing that actually suggests that theory. And there's also the problem that the Deku Scrubs have never actually been related to the Deku Tree. They seem to be an enemy species, if anything, whatnot, serving Goma and whatnot. So, yeah, there's just nothing to back that up. Random Link 7 asks, what do you think if in Skyward Sword you could travel to the world below at night? You think they could have added stuff that you couldn't do in the day, but at night you can? What do you think about this? I definitely think not being able to do much of anything anywhere at night was a big problem in Skyward Sword. I really liked... I mean, that's a game where the graphics are beautiful. It has a great art style. Everything looks gorgeous. And Skyloft at night is the same way, especially during the sequence where you're following Fi at the beginning, because you really see what Skyloft looks like at night. You look off and you see all the windows, and it looks incredible. It looks really, really interesting. And I think that the volcano section at the end of the game during the Song of the Hero quest, where you're sneaking through the volcano and it's like the sky's blotted out by the ash, it still looks like night, and that's almost like a mean tease at what the game could have had with night sections on the surface. Those areas could have looked beautiful and incredible at night, and I think that they really missed out on that graphical opportunity, if not the gameplay one. I think there is interesting stuff they could have had at night, for sure. Alright, last question. Juicy J asks, what features from Skyward Sword would you say should be kept in the series from here on out? Well, aside from the motion controls, which I don't think should necessarily be in every single game, but I definitely want to see again in a lot, the main thing I think Skyward Sword really had going for it was the fact that they made all of the gameplay sections very fun. I mean, Skyward Sword, for me, this is why it's my favorite game, really, is it just makes every individual experience just so much fun. I just have a blast playing the thing. It doesn't even matter if, like, the parts that are good or bad, it doesn't matter if all the little flaws. I can look past all those because the experience is essentially a lot of fun. It's hard to explain it past that as a concrete thing. They just have a lot of little details and effort put into all the little parts of the game and all the action sequences. It just makes all the gameplay, all the action, a lot of fun. And there's a lot of variety, a lot of interesting things to do. And just playing the game is very fun. So I'd say it's like a production value thing with the gameplay moments. I'd like to see that kind of detail into it put into future Zelda games, especially with like the boss battles and the combat and whatnot. I guess the quality of music wouldn't be a nice thing to keep too, but that's really the main thing for me, the production values. Alright guys, that's it for this time. Be sure to send your questions to the contact page in the description, and I'll see you guys later. Because it doesn't make sense how he went back and met Zelda and stopped Ganon from coming to power if